Hello everyone, this is the Vloggerio. Welcome to episode number 10 of how to make an IO game. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to move the player smoothly around using vectors. So we are no longer going to use normal X and Y that we were using, but now we are going to use vectors. And in this video, you will also learn about force, acceleration, speed, and some more cool stuff as well. Let's go. Okay, just like before, I'm gonna copy and paste my episode number 9 code, and I'm gonna call it number 10. We're gonna start from there. I'm gonna open it with Visual Studio Code, which is over here. And okay, just like always, I'm gonna go to sketch.js. This is where we're writing our code right now, because for now it's happening only on the client side. Nothing special about multiplayer yet, but for now I'm gonna get rid of every comment that I have, like this. I don't want it. Let me check. Okay, that's enough. Alright, before I start, let me tell you that this is what we are going to change. Right now we are for telling the computer where is X and where is Y. We are saying that okay, this is the X coordinate, this is the Y coordinate, this is the speed that we are going to add to the X coordinate, this is the speed that we're going to add to the Y coordinate. But there is a better way of doing this stuff, because eventually there is going to be more to this game. Maybe like gravity, maybe like force, maybe somebody pushes you. If you go play pure space, there is a wave that you can slow down the bullets that are coming through, things like that. In order to do that, because we are going to do some simple physics mechanic for our game. We're gonna write that. We're gonna write some physics for our game. In order to do that, it's gonna be like reality, just a little bit like reality. So that is why you're gonna be. I introduce you a new way of giving the coordinate to the computer, and that is called a vector. A vector is basically a point in wherever you have in the computer or wherever you have in the world. Reality or computer, no different. A vector has an X, Y, and Z. And because our game is right now in a 2D world, so it only has the X and Y. Just like before. It is every vector in the world, just like that. Every vector has an X and a Y and a Z. Of course, we are in the 2D world, so we only have X and Y, and the Z is always 0. So we don't even write it. So this is how you look at a vector. This is how you write a vector, an X and Y. All right. What is special about vectors? Okay, instead of saying I have a point on this X and this Y, we're gonna say okay, I have a vector with X and Y of these two numbers. And what is good about vectors is that they have direction and length. What does it mean? Whenever I say, okay, I have a vector, I have a point on X of 780 and 300, okay, and that's a vector-based point, it means that from 0, 0 location, which is on top here, this is our 0, 0 location, from here to here, it's gonna have a magnitude. Okay, it's 780 from 0 and 300 from 0, yeah? Is that correct? And because of that, I can now calculate the distance between my origin and the vector, the point itself, the end of the vector itself. So a vector has a start location, which is always the origin, and has an end location, which is what I have over here. And because I have those two numbers, it basically has 2 points. I can now calculate the length of a vector. It means that okay, from here, which is the origin, to here, which is the end of my vector, how much pixels do I have to move, or how much meters is the length of that, or magnitude of that. It is called magnitude, or better said, length. And in order to calculate that, there is a little simple formula you can find in the net, and maybe the vector of this, I'm sorry, the magnitude of this vector is 835.703. Who cares? I will show you the formula maybe in future videos, but right now we don't have to do anything with that, because P5js is gonna calculate this with a really simple function. That's nothing you should be worried about right now. And one more thing that is special about vectors, when you are using vectors, you can now calculate the angle, or theta. Okay, the angle, how does it say? It is the angle. Okay, you can now calculate the angle between your vector and the origin. Maybe calculate the angle between your vector and the maybe y-axis, or maybe the x-axis, which is this way. Okay, so you can now calculate the angle as well. Now, with that said, so from now, any point that we're gonna show on our game, or any point that we're gonna give our code, is gonna be a vector-based point, because vector is better. We have access to the angle and the magnitude, simple as that. With that in mind, I'm gonna jump into the a simple physics engine that we're gonna write in this video, which is this. Oh shit, look at that. Alright, first of all, this is a box that we have in reality. Imagine this is reality, but in 2D world. We have a box, which is this. Don't mind what I have written here. Okay, just imagine this as a box, and this is a guy who is pushing the box toward the right, maybe. Who cares? This guy is leaning here, and this guy is applying some force to it. It means that he is transferring energy from himself or herself to the box. This transferring means that applying some force, it's the energy that you're pushing to the box, or maybe pulling the box, who cares? That applying, that amount of energy that you are applying is called force. And we're gonna call it add force. We're gonna call it in our code, we're gonna create a method called add force, which is responsible for sending energy from any source to our box. And our box is our player right now in the game. This box is our triangle, which is that player. So applying force, it means that, okay, I'm gonna apply some force to the box toward the right. We're gonna write a function called we're gonna write a method called add force, which is responsible for doing that, transferring energy from this guy to the box. So that is called add force. And what else do I have? We have some acceleration. Okay, how do I add force? How do I transfer force from this guy, from this little guy, to my box? How do I transfer it? Where does this force goes? By the way, the force is a vector, because force has direction. Why a force is a vector? Why is that? Because first of all, it's like this. It's an arrow, because a vector has direction and magnitude. It means that, okay, how much force are you applying to this box? How much? You see, this much, or just like that. How much is applying this? This is the magnitude. So this is the magnitude of your force. And in which way you are applying that? You're pushing down, or maybe you're just pushing toward the right or left. I don't know. Is that your right or your left? I don't know that. But anyway, that is why we use vectors for the force. And okay, where does this force goes? How does this force from my body goes to the box? From this guy's body goes to the box. That is when the box has something called acceleration, which is here. Okay, the box has an attribute called acceleration, which is another vector. And acceleration is responsible for holding down the amount of force that it's taking. Okay, the box. Whenever you're applying some force to the box, it's gonna be added to the acceleration. So whatever the acceleration is, it's gonna some more number is gonna be added to it. So that is what's happening here. So the amount of force from this guy's body goes to the acceleration. Is gonna be added to the acceleration. It means that okay, imagine two people are pushing. Maybe one other guy is pushing. Maybe I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna flip vertical. Oh no, flip vertical. That's what I have to do. Okay, imagine two guys are pushing force. Okay, one from the other side, one from this side. What happens then? This is the acceleration. The acceleration is a vector. Okay, it's a point. And right now it says, okay, I am toward the right. This guy pushes this much of force toward the right, but this guy, the right guy, pushes another amount of force toward the left. So what we have here is zero acceleration, maybe, if the forces are equal. Okay, so that is why the force is going to be added to the acceleration. So one force right here, one force right here, both of them, just like this one added, and this one, these one will be added to another vector, and that other vector is say, okay, once I have these two forces, okay, so it means that these two should be added together. Both of them are pushing the box. It means that the acceleration should be the sum of all the forces that it's taking, and that's it. And after that we have something called the speed, which is, what is the speed? It is the amount of steps that the location is taking. Okay, you say, okay, first of all, I am here. What is the next step? Here. The next step here. Okay, and the speed is always going up and up and up and up. Okay, usually I'm sorry, acceleration is going up and up, but speed is always steady. Okay, so I add the acceleration to a speed, so speed is also goes up and down. But what does it do? It's gonna be added to the location. It means that, okay, what's my speed? We say, okay, what is your speed? I add the acceleration to your speed, which is 0 0 by default. Add the amount of acceleration that adds to speed, it's gonna be, this is going to be your step. So your next step is gonna be 3 pixels far away. Okay, so this speed, the magnitude of this speed, if it is this much, as you can see here, okay, the next step is gonna be here. If this box moves with the amount of if this guy forces this box with a force of, for example, 2 0, it's gonna be added to the acceleration. So acceleration is 2 0, and the acceleration is gonna be added to the speed. So the speed is 2 0. Okay, it means that the magnitude of this speed is 2 pixels, or in reality maybe 2 meters. So the next position, the next location of this box is gonna be 2 meters to the right. So the speed is the actual amount of step that you're gonna take in the next. And you know what? Speed is gonna is it's the speed is never going to change somehow, but the accelerate by change I mean at the second. Okay, once you add acceleration to a speed, you're gonna set acceleration back to 0. Okay, because you're gonna calculate the acceleration again in the next step. Okay, so, but you never set the speed to 0, because if you do that, your box will never move. So what happens here? We add force. There is a function we have, and then we add the force to acceleration. What does it mean? It means that you're accelerating. Accelerate. Once we add force to the acceleration, it means accelerate. Acceleration. Okay, it means accelerating. So we add force, then we accelerate. Once we accelerate, what happens then? Then we speed up. What does a speed up means? It means that we are adding acceleration to a speed, and after that, what do? We move. The movement means location plus speed. That means moving. All right. Whew. That was a bit hard. I know that, but you're gonna get familiar with this, and it's gonna get so much simpler once we do this in the code. It's gonna be simple. Maybe not simple for you, but after a while it's gonna be simple. Maybe your next game is gonna be these things is gonna be like, okay, this is super easy for me, and I'm gonna do that just simple. All right. How do I do that in code? Well, first of all, I'm gonna go here to the player object. I'm gonna change the x and y to another variable called player. I'm gonna say player dot. We now have player dot location. Okay, this is the player dot location. So instead of x and this dot x and this dot y, I'm gonna have something called I'm sorry. I'm gonna have something called this dot location, which is going to be, because we are using P5js, we're gonna create a vector. It is going to be a vector. How do I create a vector in P5js? It's like this: create vector, and it's gonna take an x and y and z, but z is always 0 because we're in a 2D space. By default, it's gonna be set to 0. So I'm gonna say x and y, because the x and y that I take from the constructor, I'm gonna use them to create my location, my initial location. So I no longer need these two lines, but keep that in mind. Once I'm deleting this, I'm using this.x and this.y 100 places. So once I'm deleting them, I have to change wherever I have this.x, I have to change it with this.location.x. Just look at that. I'm gonna delete them. Then here, when I'm using the this.x, we no longer have something called this.x. We have this.location.x. Now I have access to the x of the location. This is a vector, the x value of this vector, and then this.location.y. Same thing is gonna happen for other things, but I'm not gonna change these here. I'm just gonna get rid of them. I'm gonna comment these lines because we no longer use them for now. Okay, just like that. I have changed nothing. I just create a vector with the x and y, with a given x and y. Then I'm using that x and y to translate. We haven't done anything just now, but now we have something else called this.force, which is the amount of force that we're taking in at the moment, which is another vector, just like that. I'm gonna copy the line above with a 0, 0. So no force by default. There is no force coming through once we are creating the player object. I want another vector, which is the acceleration. I want another vector, which is the velocity, or better said, speed, which is by 0, 0 by default again. So we no longer need the speed x and speed y. Let me delete those. What else do we have here? Nothing. Alright, let's create the methods now. This, we have something called this dot add force. What is that? What does it do? Add force is equal to a function because it's a method. What does it do? It takes some amount of force. Maybe it takes some amount of force. It takes some amount of force. We're gonna have a variable called force is equal to the amount of force. And then this dot force is equal to that force. This is doing nothing right now, but in a moment I'm gonna give it more functionality, so you will know that what it does. Right now, what it does, it takes some amount of number, which is this is going to be a vector, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna comment it up here. This is a vector, okay? So the add force method takes a vector, it calls it force, and it sets the force attribute of the player. So the force attribute is gonna be the amount of given force, whatever. Okay, we have another method called, what was the next one? Let me bring it here. We add force, then we have accelerate. This dot is equal to function, just like that. What does this one do is that it just takes, it's gonna add the force to the location. No, it's gonna add the force to the acceleration. Yeah. So this dot acceleration is equal to this dot acceleration plus this dot force. That is true? No. This is not going to work. Because we are using vectors, we have to do it the vector way. So you have to go to the P5js references, go find in here you can find add, how to add two vector together. Oh, there it is. This is how you add vector number 1 to vector number 2. Use this. You can click it, open it. There it is. v.add another vector. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing in our code. So we no longer do this. Okay, this is not going to mean anything for us. Dot add the vector number 2. This is going to work. This is true. This dot acceleration dot add. We are adding the force to the acceleration. Now I'm gonna copy the same thing, paste it here. We have this dot speed up, yeah, and this dot speed up is gonna say, okay, speed, we're gonna add the acceleration to the speed, simple as that. And then we have another function called move, and move, what does it do? It adds the speed to the location, just like that. Okay, after we move, we're gonna set this set the acceleration back to 0. How? 0 out acceleration. What does it do? It just I'm gonna copy, so I'm gonna set the acceleration back to a 0, 0 vector. So I'm gonna reset it to what it was before. Okay, because speed is gonna hold the final acceleration that we have is added to speed, and we have it there. We don't want it on this acceleration itself. That's it. And now what we have to do, what other thing do we need? We have some method that pack everything together. We're gonna have the method, a method called update, which any object that you know in your life that is gonna happen a lot of time per second is gonna have an update method that has to pack all the other methods inside itself. You can see how it works now. So first of all, we say this dot apply add force. I'm sorry. Which is how much? I say create vector, maybe 2 to the right and 0. This is my force. And after that I say, because this is the parameter I give it, I say this dot accelerate, and then we say this dot speed up. And after that we say this dot move, and what happens next? This dot zero out acceleration. Simple as that. Okay, this is packing everything up, but we are never calling the this dot update anywhere, so I'm going to copy it. Okay, before copy it and paste it. Before I draw, I'm gonna do it like that. I'm gonna first update, then I draw. Alright, ooh, look at this problem, man. Whenever we're translating, we no longer have player number 1 x, we have player number 1 dot location dot x. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it for the y as well. I'm pretty much sure we're doing the same thing somewhere else, which is okay down here. Oh, we already fixed it. Oh, very good, very good. So I hit save, Control S. I'm gonna start the game. Let's see what happens. What happened now? I refresh. Okay, we have an error. Create vector is not defined. 66. Yeah, of course it's not defined because we have a camel case naming convention. Okay, I'm gonna start it again. Refresh. Oh, did you see that? The acceleration of 2 is too much, by the way. Okay, I'm gonna bring it down. Stop the server now. I don't want 2, maybe 0.1. I'm gonna run it again, see what happens. Okay, smoothly, and it goes faster and faster because it's accelerating faster and faster. Okay, I don't want it to be a static number. This is a magic number given it. I want it to happen by mouse move. So I'm gonna copy this function, paste it over here, this method. I'm gonna call it mouse force. Maybe get mouse force. Okay, and it takes nothing. It just takes these two. It returns some number. It's gonna return. Before that, I am going to create a variable called force. It's gonna return this. Okay, create vector first, and then that's it. What is this? It's gonna take the vector of the mouse, which we already have here. It's gonna calculate the vector from the middle of a screen to the mouse. So this is the y should be the second one. Yeah, first is the x and then it's y. Okay, so in order to calculate the vector between 2 points, okay, you basically say point number 2 minus point number 1, vector number 2 minus vector number 1. This is what we do here. So this is a new vector which is called our force, and then I'm gonna say, okay, force dot limit by 0.1. What does it do? Limit. What does limit do? We go to the references, search for limit. There it is. It's limiting the magnitude of vector. So magnitude of vector, the vector between the middle of the screen and the mouse is this much. But I say, okay, no, I want the same angle, but I want the magnitude to be smaller, so it to be this much. Okay, just like that. Ooh, I'm getting a little bit tired here of talking. All right. So we limit it. Simple. and then we do other stuff as well. Okay, maybe we can limit other things too. Okay, so but let's check it now. By now I'm gonna copy this line of code, and instead of having a magic number, giving in a magic number to my add force, I'm gonna say, okay, get mouse force, whatever it is, do that, use that. I'm gonna start the server, refresh. Oh, it's doing nothing. Why is it doing nothing? I'm gonna go back to code because I have something. I should save, maybe refresh. I see nothing. I go back. Let's see what we are missing here. Oh, yeah, we're missing. We have to return the force. That is right. I save. By the way, this is I accidentally added something here. If you add anything like that, there nothing will happen. It happened nothing. It is not some magical code. I'm gonna start the server. Oh, my hand again hit it. Shit. No problem. I refresh. Alright. Ooh, yeah. This is what we exactly looking for. But now, okay, look at that. It gets too fast. It gets too fast. I don't want that to happen. I'm gonna go back to code. How should I should limit this the acceleration as well. I should limit the acceleration and the speed as well. So what can I do is that I'm gonna add maybe 3 more attributes here. First one is mouse max speed, max force, maybe max acceleration, and max speed. Okay, mouse max force is gonna be 0.1. Max acceleration is gonna be 3, no more than 3. And the max speed, I'm gonna set it as same as the acceleration. We can set it more, no problem. We can set it more. But now we can use these 3 numbers. This max force is gonna become instead of limiting the force by 0.1, I'm gonna limit it by the mouse force. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for the acceleration. So add force, and then we accelerate. We say, okay, this dot acceleration dot limit this dot max acceleration. I'm gonna do the same thing for the speed. This dot speed limit this dot max speed. I'm gonna save. I'm gonna go back to here. So it is no longer going to go more than 3 pixels per frame. Yeah, that's the max speed we have. 3 pixels per frame. You can set it more by changing this to a higher thing, maybe 8. And by the way, we can drift now. I will show you. As you can see, we have more speed. Maybe we have now 8 pixels per frame. Okay, what else do we have here? What we're missing here? Okay, remember I told you in add force this is absolutely doing nothing. It's absolutely doing nothing. What we have here is the mass, is the mass, because in reality mass matters. Mass is maybe 3 by now. Okay, mass is what affects how much force is it. Something is heavier, something is not, something is bigger, smaller, I don't know, things like that. It's gonna be mass, so it should affect the way our acceleration force and things behave. And that is where we're gonna divide the force by the mass before we use it. So mass is how mass can affect the speed or force or acceleration. This is it. You should divide the force by the mass before you use it. That's where mass comes in. So we should say force dot divide this dot mass. Alright, I'm gonna hit save. I'm gonna stop and start the server. Of course, we don't have to do that. This is bad behavior by now. But eventually, when we change the server side, we must change it. We must stop and start the server. Okay, now it is a little heavier. We have drifting. I go right, it takes time to go right and left. Okay, I go back here. I can set the mass more, maybe 30. Oh my god, I'm gonna save, refresh. Too heavy, too heavy. But I go back here, I'm gonna set it back to 1. It means that mass no longer have any mass doesn't do anything when you set it to 1, because we are dividing the force by 1. It means nothing. It means the force itself. But if it be 0, you're gonna face some huge problems, because 0 is gonna set something divided by 0 is gonna be, I don't know, undefined, infinity, I don't know, nobody knows what it is, but divided by 1. Okay, so we have no mass. It's basically the space, no mass. All right, that's it for today, guys. I'm sorry it was a little bit hard or confusing. We will go through this stuff 100 times in future. Thank you very much for taking your time watching this episode. I know it was long, but it's worth it, believe me. Right now we have really simple engine for our game, especially for our player. Eventually it's gonna happen for all the objects in the scene. We're gonna use the same things by something called inheriting, but I'm not gonna do that. In the next video, I'm going to teach you how to transfer everything we have here to the server side, because right now it's not happening on the client side. It's gonna be eventually it's all happening on the client side. In the next video, I'm gonna teach you how to do the same thing on the server side. We're gonna transfer our code to the server side so players can see each other. So please stay up. Hit that notification button so you can check the next video. Don't forget to like, share. If you're not subscribing, consider doing it right now, because it's gonna be late. Thank you very much. Bye.